The voice of faith. The voice of faith is the voice of the Spirit. In John chapter 1 verse 10, John said, I was in the Spirit on the day of the Lord, and I heard behind me a great voice like a trumpet. That was a voice that came to John. He was in the Spirit, and a voice came. So the voice of faith is a voice of the Spirit. In Romans chapter 10 verse 17, the word of God says, faith will come by hearing, and hearing the word of God. The word of God comes through the Spirit. The word of God comes through faith. So the voice of faith is a voice of the Spirit. And the voice of faith will always put a man on a dangerous mission. The voice of faith will always put a man on a dangerous mission. Remember Moses. He was led from wilderness to the Pharaoh palace, in order to challenge Pharaoh that he should let my people go. What a dangerous mission. Why? A voice came, the voice of the Spirit. Remember, in John chapter 4 verse 24, the word of God says, God is a spirit, and those that worship him in spirit and in truth. So the voice of faith is a voice of the Spirit. When it visited you, the moment the voice visited you, you are on a dangerous mission. The voice of faith will not speak your desires. The voice of faith will not speak your will. The voice of faith always comes to individual and is searching for the obedient. It's a voice that is searching for the obedient ones. The voice of faith is searching for the obedient one. Remember, this voice came to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. The voice came to Abraham to quit his father's house. And Abraham obeyed. And he was ruled and dominated by the voice of faith. And the voice of the Spirit took over him. The same voice led him to sacrifice Isaac unto the Lord. The same voice led Jesus to the tomb of Lazarus on a dangerous mission. After 4 days, Lazarus has died. After 4 days, the same voice of the Spirit, voice of faith, led him to the tomb in order to raise Lazarus after 4 days. Remember John and Peter at the beautiful gates. The same voice led them to challenge the lame man. Remember the man that was born blind. When the voice of faith is leading, it will always lead you on a dangerous mission. He led Moses on the way to Red Sea. Remember Elijah and his mission in Israel. Voice of faith will always lead you. Will always come to you to speak impossibilities, to reveal impossibilities, to tell you mysteries. In Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 3, the word of God says, call on me and I will show you great and mighty things which thou knowest not. Those things you do not know. The voice of faith will come to you in order to open your eyes, in order to open your understanding. In order to open your understanding. You remember one of my weakness, I confess one of my weakness then in 2015. The word of faith came to me and ruled my life, dominate my life, change my direction, put me on a dangerous mission. The word of faith will never come to you without a risk. It will come in order to put you in a risk. So there must be a risk involved. There must be a risk involved. It's a voice that always puts you in a risk. Either to confess, either to take a step. He told Moses, continue your journey, and the Red Sea was ahead of them. And the voice of faith said, move on. While Red Sea was challenging their movement. What a risk. What a risk to jump into a Red Sea. What a wonderful risk. But one thing that is sure about the voice of faith is victory and testimony at the end. Victory and testimony at the end. So when you are ruled and dominated by the voice of faith, you will always live an overcomer's life. You will always live a victorious life. You will always live a testimony's life. This is voice of faith. Spirit of faith dominates and rules men of old and is still ruling today, leading people, putting people on a dangerous mission in order to see the glory of God, in order to see God at work, in order to encounter divine presence. I mean supernatural encounters, move of God. The voice led Jesus after he returned from wilderness, from Jordan to wilderness. The voice of faith will always lead you to inconvenient places, to unfavorable places, not to agree with your desire, with your expectations, with your wishes. The voice of faith will not agree with your wishes, will not agree with your desires. Will not. I remember in 2015, I told my people in 2015, after my several revival in the community here, I ran away because of the mission. I quit. Like Jonah, I ran away back to city. That what a journey is this? What type of mission and voice is this leading me back to a remote environment? So after I ran back in 2015, I told you I have a testimony. I ran to city, to capital city. And I told my friend I'm back finally. That the revival has closed. I'm now back fully at the city. And my friend said, that is good. Because I always want to agree with all the expectations of my people. In order to please my people, not the Lord. The voice of faith will come to you in order to please the Lord, not people. And after a night, the Lord came to me. The Lord walked in and sat down with me. That was when I had a testimony. And the Lord speak to me that night about my leading, my direction. The Lord told me I should return back to Arigidi community, to Akoko land. The Lord said, return back to Arigidi community. And I said, I think it shouldn't be the starting place, the starting point. I was arguing with the Lord. And the Lord told me, He sat down with me as a father to son. And the Lord told me, no, whatever you need to tell your people, I will be telling you. Return back to Arigidi. He repeated it 3 times. And after that night, I packed my luggage and I returned back to an inconvenient environment. Why? The voice of faith will always put you on a risk. The voice of faith will always put you on a dangerous mission. On a dangerous mission. So most of the confession you are hearing today, the message of promised land, it was the same voice, the same light of revival. In 2014, 15, 17, 19, that the same light of revival is the same light we are talking about. It's the same hand we are talking about. I was arguing with the Lord that the people you said that is coming to the promised land, I couldn't see anybody. So that was what caused me to run away. But when I returned back, what He said came to pass. I now saw His people coming to the promised land. And I was delighted. I was very happy. So this is the reason why I couldn't run away again. And since then, I've been enjoying the fellowship with the Lord and His blessings and His power and His wonders. So when you allow the voice of faith to dominate, to rule your life, when you walk in spirit, the voice of faith will rule and dominate your life. And you will have a wonderful testimony and victorious journeys of life to live and to testify to the glory of God.